Not all men will click away from this video about toxic masculinity. Because we know that men are also hurt by sexist gender roles and a lack of gender equality. From small things like having to pretend you like BattleBots, to pretending you have allergies every time you watch The Notebook, to real traumas that can lead to things like mass shootings. We're talking about the men and the white supremacists who suffer from, perpetuate, and prey on toxic masculinity. It's not an easy time to be a man. Women's marches, the Me Too movement, I can see how some men might feel lost when it comes to knowing the role they play, or might feel like the treehouse of victimhood has a sign on it that says, "No boys allowed." The truth is, men, you've been in the treehouse this whole time. Your side just has a roof and a PS4. Because men suffer from patriarchy in similar and yet very different ways. And I'm not saying that. He is.
What about all the boys who are profoundly affected in a negative way by what some adult man is doing against their mother, themselves, their sisters? What about all those boys? What about all the young men and boys who have been traumatized by adult men's violence? You know what? The same system that produces men who abuse women produces men who abuse other men.
Damn! If that guy gave locker room pep talks, there would be no more locker room talk. He's right. Women and men are both victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and men are the ones who are more often the perpetrators towards everyone. So if we know what we have in common, what are the problems that are unique to men? While women are told to be obedient, that they're too emotional, and that they already have 3 crop tops exactly like that, what are the messages that men and boys get?
Growing up as a boy, we was taught that men had to be tough, had to be strong, had to be courageous, dominating, no pain, no emotions, with the exception of anger and definitely no fear.
No fear? Well, I guess that explains my older brother's fashion choices in elementary school. Also his crippling depression. And since the plebes among us still watch commercials, we know that real men should shave like a man, smell like a man, wash like a man / feel like a man, have the essence of man, and if you're ever tempted to drink something unmanly like sangria, instead grab a glass of Adam Carolla's Mangria.
A little red wine, a little vodka, a little orange juice, a little pixie dust, and pow, Mangria. But I'm telling you, it's good for what ails you.
Because whatever it is that ails you now, tomorrow what ails you will be the worst hangover ever. I shouldn't have drank all this Mangria. Dr. Drew, put me back on Love Line. Thank God those messages just come from commercials and not the news.
I have some hard and fast rules for the way men should dress. No open-toed shoes, no jewelry other than a wedding ring or a watch, no highlights, and no makeup. And I am sad that we live in a culture where I actually need to articulate these things.
And I'm also sad you articulated those things because they're supremely tone deaf. Forget campus rape, unequal pay, or domestic violence. Birkenstocks are the real enemy. Also, no makeup? Are you not watching the Queer Eye reboot? Episode 1's lonely Georgia truck driver just got a comprehensive skincare routine to tame his redness, and he is looking fly.
Yes! Control those flare-ups!
So society tells men they must behave in a certain way, but what about the ways they're told to behave towards women?
That men are superior, women are inferior. That men are strong, women are weak. That women are of less value, property of men, and objects, particularly sexual objects.
And that makes total sense if you've watched any TV or movies since TV or movies were a thing. Men are encouraged to see women as headless body parts, sexy love interests who can and probably should be stalked, conquered, and kissed even though they don't want to be. And in practically every coming-of-age movie, a man's worth is purely defined by whether or not he has sex.
This is our last party as high school people. Just fucking come with me on this voyage and just stop being a pussy for once and we can fucking fuck some girls already.
Yeah, I even got some of Adam Carolla's Mangria because girls can't resist masculine insecurity, blatant misogyny, or vomit. And all of that pressure takes a toll on men.
As a boy, all I wanted was to be accepted and liked by the other boys. But that acceptance meant I had to acquire this almost disgusted view of the feminine.
I thought I had to put on a show for everyone. I could not be myself, and I wanted to put on what society said was masculinity.
The fear of feeling anything is, if I start crying, I may never stop. I might just cry and cry.
Tell me about it. How do you think we feel when we're PMSing and Toy Story 3 comes on? I have stared death in the face. When all these traditionally masculine traits are taken to the extreme, you end up with what psychologists and journalists have called toxic masculinity, a specific model of manhood geared towards complete dominance and control that devalues women and emotions and overvalues extreme self-reliance. In other words, toxic masculinity is Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. That guy was the worst. Who eats raw eggs? That is not good for you. Next stop, Salmonella City. Boop, boop. And toxic masculinity has been used to talk about a driving factor behind some of the most violent behavior. We already know that half of female murder victims are killed by a male partner or former intimate partner, but now we have the grim patterns found in mass shootings. Since 1982, 97% of mass shooters in the US have been men. And of mass shootings between 2009 and 2016, over half of the perpetrators had histories of domestic violence. We know the Pulse nightclub shooter who killed 49 people abused his wife and was deeply homophobic. We know that the Texas man who shot 26 churchgoers had previously assaulted his wife and infant son. And we know that the guy who killed 3 people at a Planned Parenthood in Colorado was accused by 2 ex-wives of domestic violence. And to think, if things were slightly different, he could have made a fantastic White House aide. Also, the shooters had unfettered access to highly powered, fully automatic guns, but listen, I am not here to draw conclusions. But the connections between toxic masculinity and mass murder get even scarier, because more and more mass acts of violence are being committed by far-right extremists, and deep-seated misogyny is often a pillar of hateful ideology. Some have even called toxic masculinity a gateway drug to other extreme views. Take the 22-year-old who killed 6 people in Santa Barbara. He wrote and vlogged his frustrations about feeling like a loser because he didn't receive attention from women. He wrote, "I will punish all females for the crime of depriving me of sex." He also held racist resentment towards black men who had girlfriends, and new reporting shows that he was interested in Nazism. Or the Norwegian mass murderer who killed 77 people and wrote in his manifesto that men aren't men anymore, but emotional beings that are there to serve the purpose as a never-criticizing soulmate to the New Age feminist woman goddess. Wow, someone took Yaz Queen a little too seriously. The alt-right preys on male insecurity and promotes its violent, toxic masculinity as a source of pride. Ahead of the Unite the Right march on Charlottesville, the white supremacist website The Daily Stormer called on its members to take the streets and profess that their membership has problems with women and feels emasculated. Then, the same website mocked the appearance of Heather Heyer, who was killed by a white supremacist that day. In fact, a lot of what defines the alt-right bog of the internet was born out of a specific hatred of women. From the trolls who attacked female gamers in Gamergate, to men's rights activism which sees feminism as an existential threat to men's rights, to pickup artists who prey on male insecurity about not having sex or not having enough sex and then selling them tips on how to act more like a douchebag in hopes of seducing women. Listen, if it didn't work for Gaston, it's not gonna work for you. Haven't you seen the end of Beauty and the Beast? Or lingo, like the insult cuck, which is meant to emasculate men whose partners cheat on them. Or being red-pilled, where men miraculously wake up to the fact that feminism is secretly about achieving female world order, where everyone is forced to watch beaches and French braid each other's hair, which it is totally not. Just listen to Richard Spencer, white supremacist and the guy who made corduroy evil, talk about women's rights.
Feminism has seduced many women into thinking that, oh, men are wrong, I need to be myself, I need to have a career, I need to do this. They wake up, they're 45, they're living with cats, and they are extremely unhappy.
Okay, listen, I'm not gonna ruin my manicure picking apart all that bull, but unhappy with cats? Let's see, would I be happier staying at home, cuddling with my soft, adorable kitty all evening, or sitting across a dinner table from your ass as you mansplain your manifesto on white ethno-states? Huh, I think I'm choosing Mein Kitty over Mein Kampf. And what binds all these disparate strands of toxic masculinity that the right feeds and foments together? Who is their alpha male? A man so toxic, he glows orange. So yes, women would rather spend the night with a pussy than be grabbed by it. Because masculinity doesn't have to be defined by being tough, or having a lot of sex, or buying a bath bomb shaped like a grenade because otherwise bubble baths are too feminine. Because increasingly, for both men and women, our safety, our communities, and hell, even our mental health, and definitely our presidency, depend on redefining what masculinity is. But again, don't take it from me. Take it from the men who are doing it.
I challenge you to see if you can use the same qualities that you feel make you a man to go deeper into yourself? Are you brave enough to be vulnerable?
Pain, passion, purpose. We're redefining manhood. Heart of a Man is helping men be themselves and open their hearts.
We also owe it to young men who are growing up all over the world in situations where they didn't make the choice to be a man in a culture that tells them that manhood is a certain way. I hope that going forward, men and women working together can begin the change and the transformation that happens so that future generations won't have the level of tragedy that we deal with on a daily basis.
Yes, kings! So maybe don't drink the Mangria flavored Kool-Aid, because it's been roofied with toxic masculinity. Thanks again for watching Newsbroke. I'm Francesca Fiorentini. You can follow me on Twitter at FrannyFio. No trolls, please. And also, make sure to share this video with your networks and let everyone know that it's not unmanly to give us a heart emoji, or subscribing on YouTube, or following us on Facebook. So do those things right now. Bye-bye now. Don't be mean in the comments.